Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is June the 18th. I'm very nervous because in the room we have a true Texas superstar with us, Dr. Brent Pemberton. Becky, why are you laughing? He is literally our true Texas superstar, and we don't even have the chat with Aggie is a little too shy. We're gonna start directly with Dr. Brent Pemberton, and the first one you see here is Zinnia Preciosa Rose. Okay, in the handouts, if you have registered before 11 a.m. this morning, you should have received two handouts. One is the Word document, with all the list of plant names, and also you should have received a PDF of all Dr. Brent Pemberton's slides. So at the end of our webinar today, and I would definitely encourage you to do our survey. And the first question is about your top 3 favorite plants from Dr. Brent Pemberton's presentation. Yeah, top 3. And to make it easy for you, Dr. Pemberton numbered all these plants. In the email that I sent to you, I said, he's probably going to talk about 20 to 30 plants. And also in parentheses, I said, or more. And Dr. Pemberton, as a plant person, he picked up on the more. So he definitely has a lot more than just 30 plants. As a plant person, I totally understand that he can't stop, when he starts talking about these plants. He can't stop. He just keep adding on. He's like, all these are good. All these are good. So you're in for a treat. You're in for a true treat. So the two handouts, if you're on, you can see that in the GoToWebinar panel. So download those if you haven't checked your email, you haven't downloaded those already. So definitely take notes on those. And at the end of the webinar, tell us and tell Dr. Brent Pemberton, what your top 3 favorite plants are. You could just put the name there. So Brent, you ready?
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, well, thanks, Mung Mung. I really appreciate you doing this. It's been a real challenge this year, as everyone knows, and having to cancel our physical field day was a tough decision, but something that we felt we needed to do. And so anyway, we're going to end up doing some virtual things, including some videos and that sort of thing, that I'll talk a little bit more about later. But what I wanted to do today is basically to do a preview of our virtual field day 2020. So I went out about a week ago or a few days ago and just started taking some pictures of some things that are starting to look good in the trials, just so you can get a little bit of an appetite or whatever for what we're going to be putting in these videos that we're going to do for our virtual field day that'll start showing up, at the latter part of next week. We'll start off with zinnias, and I'm doing this kind of randomly because this is how I came to them in the field as I was walking through. And so instead of alphabetical order, but we'll start with zinnia. This is the Preciosa Rose. We've got the series, and they were just starting to come into flower. These are always, very popular at field day, and this looks to be a pretty good series so far. We've also got some of the Zaharas. We've got the double orange bright, and then the double yellow is kind of up at the top up here, right up here. You can see, and that's a new color for the series. And then moving on down, we have a nice selection of Angelonia this year. There's some new colors in the Serena and Serenita series. We also have, and this is one of the colors, Serena Rose. It's not a new color, but this is what the Serenas are looking like at this time. And then we've got some new vegetative stuff. This is the Odessa Blue, the Odessa series. We've got a couple of colors in that particular series too. So on to Vinca. We do have a nice selection of Vinca this year. There's some new stuff. We do have I always grow a few of the Cora XDRs because these are a Texas superstar, and they're just, it's one of the bread and butter plants for our landscapes in this part of the country, and because of the disease resistance. And this is the one called Pink Halo, the Cora XDRs, and which is one of my favorites. We've also got a new color I think it's bright rose that's in the Cora cascades that's going to be kind of fun to take a look at, because those are the ones that stay low to the ground and you can use them in hanging baskets and that sort of thing, which are really cool. We've got an improvement in the Valiant series. The Valiant's also touting disease resistance. This is the apricot improved, and it does have, I think it's got a nicer habit than the one we had before, and anyway, nice colors and good flowering on that so far. There's been also some development in the Soiree series. Now this is a vegetative Vinca series, and this is the one called, it's the Soiree series, but this is Kawaii Coral. And Kawaii, I thought at first was a play on the name of Hawaii, but Kawaii is actually a Japanese word for cute. And so anyway, that totally makes sense when you see this plant. This is the one called Coral, and this is the original one. And then we also have a new one called Coral Reef. And as you can see the difference between the two pictures, the Coral Reef is going to be a little bit more compact. It fits the habit of the series a little bit better, and probably is going to, I think it's going to look good in containers. So anyway, those are a couple that I'm going to have my eye on this summer as well. We don't have a lot of Ipomoea this year, but we do have, I think, some interesting some old ones and also interesting new ones. This is a classic, the Floramia Cameo, which holds its purple color pretty well. The new growth actually comes out kind of green, but then it develops the purple color and holds that pretty well in the heat. And then this is a new one for the Sweet Carolyn series, which is a great series. This is the Medusa Green, I think is really interesting. I'm not noticing any burning of the foliage yet, which I'm a little bit concerned about because of how fine it is. So this is going to be one that's going to bear watching during the summer to see how it performs in the sun. Euryops, that's supposed to be a Y, and I think this is probably the best flowering I've seen on a Euryops this late in the summer. Before, and also this one is a lot more compact. So I'm going to be really interested to see how this one goes through the summer and develops, and if it continues to stay in flower or whatever, because that looks like a pretty cool plant. Sunflowers, I have grown both the Suncredible and Sunfinity, but I've never grown them side by side, so that's going to be kind of fun. They are just now coming into flower. As you can see, they're two very different plants. They can be used for different things. The Sunfinity having the bigger leaf and the bigger flower. The Suncredible, I think, is probably a little bit more branched. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of flower power we get in comparison between these two later in the summer. Okay, something special that we're doing with Dahlias and pentas this year. I'll start off with the Dahlias, or show you some of the Dahlias to give you an idea of what we're doing. We've got a few different Dahlias, not a whole lot of cultivars, because what we wanted to do was to look at, one, how do they do planted from two different size pots, and then also how do they do with an early versus a late planting date. The theory being, of course, that if you've got a bigger plant, if you have to plant late, a bigger plant is going to give you better establishment. Well, so far we're finding that the bigger plant's better overall for this particular plant. As you know, Dahlias are a big challenge in Texas. And so I think not only are we looking at, selection of varieties, but we're also looking at how do we grow this and get it to our gardens in the best way that we can. And this is the Venti series, planted from 6-inch pots. And you can see how well they've developed. These were planted back in May. We've got a later planting that's just beginning to develop. This is the Dahlia Mystic Illusion from 6-inch pots, and you can see this is a big plant. It's got more of a single flower. It's a little bit different, but the dark foliage and the contrast with the flower color is really quite striking. And I've had really good luck with this one tolerating the heat of our summer here and actually coming back for 3 years in a row, which is almost unheard of for Dahlias. These are some of the Ventis, and you can see the Mystic Illusion in the middle. They're planted from 4-inch pots. So at the same time as those 6-inch pots I showed you earlier. So you can see that we're seeing some big differences in how well these things establish. I'm thinking one of the keys to getting these things established or excuse me, for being tolerant to our high temperature conditions is getting them established in the spring. So, you know, this is something that I think is going to be real interesting to watch over the summer. We're doing a very similar thing with pentas, except with pentas, we did it in either jumbo packs or 4-inch pots because it's a little bit smaller plant, and typically those are the pot sizes that you might see pentas for sale as. Of course, there are larger ones, but those are fairly common, especially 4-inch pots. So anyway, we're going to be watching that as it develops over the summer as well, and we've got some series such as the new Glitterati series, and also some of the more recently introduced Graffiti 2020 series, which have performed pretty well for us. So that's going to be a lot of fun, I think. Another good heat-loving plant, I just took an overall shot because there wasn't a lot to distinguish between the different varieties here. At this point, we've got some of the Ping Pong series, the Las Vegas series, and Truffula Pink, which is a vegetative one. And so anyway, that'll be more interesting later on as we get into July and August, but I just wanted you to know that those are going to be out there. Interesting development in Celosia this year. This is one called Foliage Soul Lizard Leaf, which is really being grown, touted as much for its foliage as it is for the flowers. The flowers are almost kind of a little decorative afterthought. And you know how important foliage is in our landscapes here. You know, we have plants like coleus and stuff like that. And for tropical landscapes in this part of the country, foliage is very important. I'm thinking these are going to look, we've got these in container trials too, and I'm thinking that's going to be a cool thing. They're looking good there as well. Okay, speaking of coleus, you can see some of the coleus we have in the foreground. Not a tremendous number of different entries this year. We've got some that we brought back from the last year or two that have just been really super. This is the Color Blaze series, Wicked Hot, and it's for the heat that we're having already. I just was so impressed with the fact that it's still holding that beautiful coppery tone color, which is, you know, it's hard to get a coleus like that that'll hold that color in higher temperatures. And then this is in the same Color Blaze series, but the Royal Pineapple Brandy. This is a new one. In the background, you can actually see another one that's one of the Royals in this Color Blaze series too. The name's flying out of my head, but anyway, one thing that I am enjoying seeing is the fact that we're getting some of these newer coleuses that are starting to show up with a smaller, you know, a finer leaf. You know, I love the scalloped edges and stuff like that. So we're getting a little bit of texture, and it's a little bit of a change and a contrast between the great big huge leaf ones that we've had for the past several years as new introductions. So anyway, this is pretty cool. And we've also got another one I didn't get a picture of, but that is going to be pretty cool. That's along the same lines, is in the flame throwing series, and there's one called Cajun Spice this year that's it's looking pretty good so far as well. Marigolds are always pretty tough. I mean, the African marigolds are always the choice for us in Texas, and this is the cocoa series, which I'm finding very interesting. We grew it last year, and it actually did very well in the heat. And I think one of the deals that we've got going for us here is the vigor. This is a cut flower type, and if you don't do any pinching, it will grow straight up, and you've got to stake it, and you can get a really long stem, and it makes an awesome cut flower. But if you want to grow it in the garden more shrubby, we tried pinching it early, you know, as we're growing these in containers before we got them to the field, so that we had a bushy plant to put in the field to begin with. And then as you cut flowers, of course, then you can increase the bushiness. And so far you can see how well they're standing up and branching and everything with that kind of treatment. So anyway, I'm going to be really interested to see how these go through July and August, when so many marigolds go through meltdowns. But these have got such vigor. I think it's going to be pretty cool to see how that goes. We also have some more compact types. This is an experimental triploid orange that we've got a couple of colors in which will probably be introduced as a new series next spring in 2021. And then there's some new colors of the Marvel 2 series that we'll have to kind of take a look at some of these more compact types this summer. And here's salvias and petunias. Of course, the petunias are always one of the first things we plant, so we do expect them to be showing some good color at this time of the year. Also, one thing that I have really learned about some of these bigger salvias is that you've got to get them in at a good time of the year too, to get them established before it gets really hot, so that you can get good performance on those. These were all planted this spring from 4-inch pots, and anyway, you can see those in the foreground, and some of the specific ones that we've looked at, these we've had before, and I just combined these into one selection because they're both from the Rockin' series, and it's fuchsia and blue suede shoes. They're looking really good. The blue suede shoes has come back for me after the winter, much better. The fuchsia doesn't seem to have much hardiness at all. Perhaps in South Texas it would, but the Rockin' blue suede shoes has done a lot better up here in North Texas. And so anyway, that's one that I've become particularly fond of and looking good. And then we've got this new Perennials type salvia, which looks like a Salvia farinaceae on steroids, and it's called White Flame. And I'm very interested in this. It's standing up and holding itself up really well, which is impressing me. Another thing that I always look for with the white Farinaceae types is the fact that sometimes the old flowers will turn brown and you get kind of a messy look with that. These are not doing very much of that so far. I've seen a little bit of that, but not to the extent that I normally see that. And so that's something that I want to watch too and see how that develops, because this could be a pretty cool thing. I love really vigorous plants. I know sometimes they're hard to produce, and growers will angst over that sort of thing, but when we get these things out in the garden, it's really pretty awesome. Okay, as far as petunias, there's lots of petunias out there. I'm going to go ahead and point out the Tidal Wave Silver. I mean, it was just screaming at me that day, and it's one of our best Texas superstars. And then we've also got that Shockwave Coral Crush, which is right behind it. And you can see kind of the difference in the habits between tidal waves and the shockwaves. We've got some new colors this year of some of the shockwaves and the easy waves, so that's going to be fun to take a look at as well. We've got a new improvement on the Supertunia Royal Velvet, and this is, I think, one of the biggest sellers of this series. And so it's always kind of a nervous thing for breeding companies to improve something that is already selling so well. But there's supposed to be some better branching and better color fastness and that sort of thing with this plant. So that's something that we'll be taking a look at this summer as well. And then we've got 2 or 3 colors. I really still like these Mini Vista. This is the indigo, and there's some other colors. These are not brand new, but they are newer to the trailing type petunia breeding habits and stuff like that. And so I think they're really pretty cool introductions, and something that we still like to have around and see. They have small flowers, but they've got lots of them, so you get lots of flower power. Okay, New Guinea Impatiens, we've got some improvements in Infinity. Down here, the Blushing Crimson improved, and we got a couple of other colors of that particular series. It's a more compact series. And then we've got some new colors in the Sun Patience. Just when you thought the Sun Patience had all the colors in the world, here we have some new ones. And so we've got this experimental compact hot pink, which is right here, and then we've got this vigorous lavender splash. I really like these vigorous ones, though sometimes the compact ones are really pretty vigorous, or excuse me, pretty heat tolerant. So anyway, that doesn't always tell us that they're going to be heat tolerant, but again, vigorous many times equates with heat tolerance. So, and then up here we've got there's a vigorous orange, and I think that's an improvement on that one. So anyway, some new colors on that, and it looks like we have an infinity amount of New Guinea Impatiens there. So anyway, that's always lots of fun, lots of color. Okay, I wanted to move to our demonstration garden where we do have some perennials, and we've been planting a lot of new perennials this spring, and it's been a challenge, of course, getting them into the ground in a timely manner. A lot of some of these things have been planted a little bit late. So I wanted to focus on some of the things that have come back from last year, because we continue to trial these many times, the first year you put something in the ground, it's not quite that spectacular, at least until July or August. This happened to be one of those that we started with a couple of years ago. But this this Salvia nemorosa Blue Bayou has proven to be, I think, one of the best Salvia nemorosas that I've ever seen. I was used to the old standard May Night, which tends to, I mean, it has a beautiful spring bloom, but then it goes out of bloom and it just really doesn't do much for me for the rest of the summer. And sometimes it doesn't survive the summer. But this one continues to, especially with a little bit of deadheading at judicious times, this one continues to rebloom during the summer and is absolutely spectacular in the fall. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. This is a close-up of the flower. Of course, it's a great pollinator plant and that sort of thing. So anyway, and it's got the blue color, and so it's a really cool plant, good perennial, and it's really prompted me to take a bigger look at this particular species of salvia. We've got about 30 different kinds in the garden that we've been keeping an eye on, and it's in its second year of growth now. So that's something that we're looking forward to this summer too. They're not in real big bloom right now because they've kind of gone through their first big spring bloom, and we're probably going to need to go through and cut them back a little bit and then see what kind of reblooming we get with the different selections that we have. So Shasta daisies, they melt frequently. This is one called Madonna, and I've had this one for a couple of years, and I have lost a few plants, the odd plant here and there. But what we did was basically dug up the ones that we had, and you can kind of reset them in the fall, and which you do a lot with some spring blooming perennials anyway. And so this one is one that's been in really good bloom recently, and it's a very nice, compact. It stands up to the weather, and it's got lots of flowers. And so it's not the biggest Shasta daisy flower I've ever seen, but it's got a very, very good flowering. And so anyway, this is pretty cool. Achillea Millie Rock Rose. I've been quite impressed with this one. There's a couple of other colors. We planted a new yellow one this year. We had a red one, which doesn't get nearly this big. But one thing that's nice about this is it does seem to be at least in a mannerly clump. I know if you've ever grown Achillea, you know that those things can send out runners sometimes and off into the other side of the bed or whatever, and they can get kind of ratty looking. And I just, for the plant form and everything, I think this is one of the prettiest ones I've ever seen. So I'm really hoping to follow this, especially this series, as it continues to develop with new colors. Okay, now this is really one of the showstoppers right now, and this is the Echinacea sombrero series. We planted these last year, and we had nice performance for the first year, but this second year has just been spectacular. You can see the numbers of flowers. These have been already in flower for a number of weeks. They started, a month ago, and they are still going strong. The colors are holding well; they're not fading out. Anyway, it's just I think this is most of the series. There are one or two colors that didn't do very well for us, but as far as lasting or whatever. But as you can see, the majority of these things are looking great, and we're going to enjoy that for a lot of the rest of the summer, I think. Another plant that is not really a true perennial for us, but they put on a really spectacular show. We got some last fall. This is the Echinacea submarina, the blazing fire. And anyway, these were planted last October out in the garden. And they, of course, have been rosettes in the winter, and they're just now really coming into bloom, and I'm seeing lots more buds. So this is going to be a spectacle for a number of weeks coming up. So I'm going to be really interested to see how long they last. Sometimes these things, as many Rudbeckias will do, especially the more annual types like Denver Daisy or something like that, they're really spectacular for a period of time, but then late summer, they tend to fade out on us. So how long these last in the summer will be really of interest. And the flowers on these things are huge. They're bigger than my hand. So that's a lot of fun. A couple of salvias, I think, notable for the fact that they have come back. Salvia Big Blue on the left. This one is actually grown from seed, and it's a big salvia. I've lost some plants of this, and so we've been a little bit wondering, you know, if it's going to be very winter hardy or not. I think more so, of course, if you get into the southern part of the state, maybe marginally up here. But we did have a good stand of it come back this year. And on the right is one called Unplugged So Blue, which is a good Farinacea type. The foliage looks really good on this one, and you know, nice and beefy in it, and it's maintained its flower presence for a very long time. So it'll be fun to see how it goes through its second summer season with us. Another salvia that I've been having some fun with, Mike Arnold from College Station shared this with us in our Texas Superstar program to look at some trials, to just try it and see how it did. And I have been very pleasantly surprised. I was a little bit afraid that it might runner on us in the bed, like some bog plants will do, but it does not do that. It does, the clump does get larger over time, but it doesn't get out of control at all. It blooms all summer. It's very attractive to pollinators, and it's got that beautiful blue color. It's a close-up of the flowers here. And so anyway, I've become quite positive on this plant, especially this spring, because it's been in flower already for a very long time, and it makes quite a presence in the garden. Calibrachoas, we've got a few new colors. I do these, of course, completely in containers. This is not a ground plant for us at all, and I just wanted to point out a couple of the varieties. We'll start down here, the Bloomtastic Quartz. We got these plants a little bit late, so it hasn't come quite into flowers. I've seen it before. I've trialed this before. This is a relatively new series, but at the same time, anyway, it's worth taking a look at. Then we've got the new Cha-Cha Diva Hot Pink over here, which is really flowering its head off. So I'm impressed so far. Of course, the trick on this is to what do they look like in July and August. So we'll see, but it certainly has a lot of vigor. And then up here at the top is Super Bell Coral Sun, which is also getting off to a bang here with the flowering. So anyway, some Calibrachoas that are worth watching in the container trials. And some other container things we have. This is a new Bracteantha called Granvia Gold that I'm quite impressed with. It's flowering really well, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down as the heat's ramping up here in June. So I think this one also is going to be worth watching. We've got it in full sun, and also the container trial with afternoon shade. So we'll see how the different conditions are for that one. New Delosperma, which is I've grown some other Delospermas that have been pretty cool, but I like this one. It's very compact. Anybody who likes rock garden plants and succulents, you know, this is going to be a cool plant. There's also an orange one, I think called Orange Crush. Got the soft drink theme going there, and so anyway, it's pretty cool. I'm actually also just seeing, this isn't on our list, but this Honeybells Kufia up here is actually pretty cool, and it's looking great in containers too. So lots of fun stuff to look at over the summer. I've got 3 different evolvulus this year, but I wanted to mention this one because it is a new one. It's called Beach Bum Blue, and it is some new breeding, as you can see by the one down here. It's more compact, and again, the plants we got kind of late on this, so it's really just starting to flower. So I'm going to be really curious to see how the branching holds up on this, and if we get more dense flowering and you know, getting more solid color, because evolvulus is one of our new Texas superstars, and so, you know, new developments in that are always welcome, because this is an awesome, very tried and true species. And so anyway, and everybody loves blue flowers. Very interesting development in petunias here. This is called Bee's Knees. It's really primarily bred to be in a container. It's got a really nice kind of compact, very bushy habit, and it's got a lot of yellow in it. I really like this. It's much more yellow than what we've seen in petunias before. So I think this is kind of exciting, and I'm really hopeful that this one's going to go through the heat pretty well for us. Telotus, there's a new Telotus called Matilda, and it's a lot more compact than the Just Joey that's been around for a long time. And also big flower spikes on this one. So I think this one's going to be fun to watch too. We've got a few Salvia farinaceas. I put a lot of the Salvia farinaceas in containers because a lot of them are a little bit smaller stature and they do well that way. On the left over here is Evolution Violet, and on the right over here is Fairy Queen. The two different selections we have on our choices today. And so anyway, they are just really looking spectacular in containers right now. So it'll be fun to see how well they hold up during the summer. And then another one is, again, the Unplugged So Blue, which also is looking great in containers first year from 4-inch pots. This is a real interesting novelty, and it looks really great. Salvia Lancelot, and I'm not sure how well this is going to do later in the summer. The heat and humidity, I've grown it a little bit before, but I think I had it too crowded in the pots. This time I just put one plant. That is one plant. And so anyway, we're trying to see how well it holds up if we have like a real hot and humid period later in the summer. So that's something that's kind of fun. It's a beautiful foliage plant, but it needs to be in a place where it's very airy and dry. And I'm thinking maybe Central Texas, that may be just an awesome plant for you guys down there. This has really impressed me so far. Now, tuberous begonias, as you know, are just really tough to do in Texas. And a lot of these begonias will sometimes tolerate our heat, but they don't like to be overwatered. Some of the Boliviensis types are that way. Some of the tuberous begonias will take a lot more heat than you think, but we always tend to try to overwater them. This particular one seems to be really vigorous. Not that you want to overwater it, of course, but so far it's looking really good. The flowers are plentiful and very fresh looking. We did burn a couple of plants with some fertilizer, so use a light hand, you know, when you're putting especially any kind of slow release fertilizer or anything in the pots. But these need to be in full shade, and you have to watch the watering. It's awesome to put them under an overhang for a patio or something like that, where you can control the watering a lot better. So anyway, but fun to watch. Okay, well, this is an overview of the field, and anyway, I want to end by just saying that starting this afternoon and tomorrow, we are going to be doing some filming. The Ag Communications folks are going to come out. We're going to be putting together a series of videos to show what's going on in the field right now. That'll start showing up on our website, which is in the handout that Mung Mung sent you. And that's on there, the virtual field day handout. And that will, it's got the website on there, flowers.tamu.edu, and we'll start putting some of those videos up that you have a link to. And also there will be a link to register for a webinar that we're going to have next Thursday morning, which will be on June the 25th, which was when our field day was supposed to be. So, which will be a presentation about past results that's very typical of what I would give at our field day, you know, in the afternoon session where we go inside after being out in the field all morning. So anyway, if you'll watch that website, we'll have some things popping up that I hope will be of interest to you that you can enjoy. So anyway.
Hey, Brent, I want to give the audience, you know, some of them may want to leave now, but you know, before you leave, I put up these two screenshots. So this has all the this one and this next one. So I'm gonna pause for a couple of seconds for the folks to you know, to just kind of refresh their memory. You know, go to your list, go to your handouts, and you know, pick your top 3 plants, just, you know, and then at the end of the webinar in the survey, put down 3 numbers, you know, put down 3 numbers of these plants. Like in some of these, Brent, like this one, you know, Brent put both plant number 12 and number 13 in the same slide, and he's doing, you know, for quite a few, some of these plants, but this is just a way for you to get a broader sense of, you know, what we have talked here today. So 3 more seconds. I'm going to go to the next one.
So it's sort of like if you had your little flag, you could go.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we always get to vote at field day, so we've been trying to figure out a good way to do this. So anyway,
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing what people like.
Yeah. So I would really, you know, hope that you would, you know, just take another look at these plants, and then just select those 3 plants that you really like, top 3 plants. So Brent, are you gonna stay to the end to answer some questions, or?
Yes, I'll be
Okay,
here.
that will be great. Thank you. 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna go back to this one. Just give you 3 more seconds to look at these plants. So pick your top 3 plants. 3, 2, 1. Next. Thank you so much, Brent, and you are our Texas superstar today. So
Thanks.
normally we have plant of the week. Laura or Paul will feature one plant of the week, and today we're like, well, there's no need for a plant of the week for this week. We have lots of plants this week.
That's a great plant.
Yeah, lots of great plants. All right, Laura.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about weeds because they are plants too, but a little bit different twist on it. 30 years ago, it's actually 1989, a business book came out called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So since then, about 25 million copies of that book have been sold, and lots of people study it and think about it. But it occurred to me that weeds, to be effective or to actually get to grow and do their thing, have certain habits that carry across many, many different species of weeds. And so I'm going to kind of, over the next few weeks, I'm just going to talk about one per week. I'm going to talk about the ways that weeds are able to live and grow even in places where we don't want them, because that's what a weed is, something growing where you don't want it. And as you can see, I have a picture here that I took the other day in a parking lot. And you can see that weed, that purslane, just growing up in the little crack between the concrete sidewalk and the concrete parking lot. Talk about hot and dry and just inhospitable, but that plant is able to grow there and reproduce, which is pretty impressive in a certain way. And I also chose that purslane because you may recall from Paul's presentation a few weeks ago, the portulaca, sounds a lot nicer, right? Portulaca is one of the Texas superstars for 2020. So it's one of our new Texas superstars. Now, those are going to be a little bit different from what you might find in your average parking lot. They're going to be selected to have, usually to have really nice, pretty flowers. And some of those are even vegetatively propagated and they don't really produce seeds. But the wild purslane, the wild Portulaca oleracea, is a really great seed producer. In fact, you can see down there at the bottom that purslane will produce 1,800,000 seeds per plant, which is one of the best seed yields of all weeds. It's right up there in the top, according to the California Society for Weed Science, which managed to, at some point back in 2002, publish a paper where they had counted seed production per plant for several different species. So this was one of the top ones, and I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about it. So why do plants produce a lot of seeds? Well, what they're trying to do is like just, really get out there fast and spread as much of their genetic material out as they can. And that's kind of the nature of what we think of when you say something's a weedy plant. A lot of times what you're talking about is something that seeds out a lot. So some people will say, oh, my inland sea oats they're just so weedy, I don't like them. Yeah, they seed out, they spread a lot of seeds. So it's one of those characteristics for plant survival that is common among many, many different species. In the plant ecology world, it's sometimes called a ruderal species. It's a species that just gets out there and throws out lots of seeds, many, 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 very, very quickly in its life cycle. So sometimes you'll see something like spurges or another one like that. You see the little cotyledon leaves come up, and then in 2 days they've got a flower and they've got seeds practically. So they're plants that can quickly become mature, spread a whole lot of seeds out, and be very proactive. That's the first habit of highly effective people, in taking over the space. That's how they do it. They just get their stuff out there quickly and make it happen. So can y'all think of another weed species that really works like this? Mung Mung, Becky, Brent, you want to jump in there and say something? It's chatty.
Like pigweed?
Palmer
Yeah.
pigweed. Yeah, for
Pigweed's
sure.
a good one.
Yeah.
So what's kind of a key for managing these species? This is what pre-emergent herbicides are made for, right? Because they're going to spread so many seeds out there that you've got to do something that kind of creates a barrier between the seed just coming up and growing and the rest of the world. Mulch is also good sometimes for these. A lot of these are small seeds. They're spread out just around their parent plant usually pretty quickly, and mulch is sometimes really good. That's the reason Dr. Pemberton has all that black plastic around all his trial plants, so that he doesn't have to constantly deal with weeds. But pre-emergent herbicides are a very good strategy for dealing with these. Mulch is a great strategy. Dr. Grubbs, do you have any other exciting things that you recommend in dealing with things that produce lots of seeds?
I don't know that I have anything exciting. I mean, I agree that pre-emergents are really important, and also a lot of our most prolific seed producers in lawns, we have more limited post-emergent herbicide options. For example, crabgrass, annual bluegrass, a lot of those annual grassy weeds. So pre-emergent herbicides are really important for that reason. And then also just being mindful of when you do have weeds in the landscape that are flowering and producing seed, that's when, where we may normally choose to mulch turf grass clippings for the nutrient value. When we have weeds that are producing flowers and seed heads, that's a good time to bag and remove to minimize contribution of those weeds, new seed to the landscape. Keeping equipment clean. A lot of these, we have a lot of plants that produce seeds that are designed to move in a lot of different ways. And sometimes that way is by hitching a ride on our mower or shoes or whatever it is. So
Absolutely. And I also think that, sometimes you can, maybe if you're trying to mechanically control weeds, you can mow before they are able to set seeds. But it's hard because they're fast, they're speedy, they're going to get after it. So it's hard to do that. But yeah, pre-emergent herbicides are great on these kinds of weeds, truthfully. And if you think about it, pre-emergent herbicide are an example of you being proactive, because you're getting out there before you have a problem. So you have to be proactive to manage these proactive plants. So.
And the only other little tip I can offer is just, one part of our preventative control that we recommend is just being really conscientious about what you introduce to your landscape, and recognize that these very tiny seeds could be in the compost or mulch or, sod or whatever that you purchase. And so you want to try to get things from places that you trust and that they're not going to introduce a problem. So
yeah, and the plants that you purchase too. When you bring in plants in containers, a lot of times you're bringing in these little old seeds. So you got to keep an eye around anything new. Okay, well, that's really the first habit, and I'll just talk about another habit another time. Okay. What you got here, Mama? Did we figure out what these black spots are?
Well, this is why I'm bringing it back. So, remember last time when I showed this, we often have more questions than answers we could offer. So I asked this is the, back and forth diagnosis of this process, how this process goes. And just unfortunately, this homeowner, is not able to join us. So, but anyway, so I asked him for more pictures, and he sent me more pictures. So basically, this is the problem we saw last year, but I replaced this old picture with him standing right here, showing you where the symptoms are. So you could see that these are some of the black spots. And then in addition, so this is that one plant that's gotten those plants, those black spots or whatever the black thing is, and then all the other trees, don't have the symptom. By the way, really awful pruning on these crepe myrtles. But let's look at. He also sent me some close-up pictures. So, and I have 3 of these. So I want you all to take a close look at. When he told me, you know, these things, there's no bark underneath, I was like, are you sure? Are you sure there's no bark underneath? I was like, you know, crepe myrtle has these peeling bark, you know, these are just old bark, and then, you know, underneath there's still bark. So when I look at these, I was like, oh, and okay, let me show you another picture. So this is his hand showing that, you know, similar pattern. And also, you know, I guess these were the older bark. And then another one here, this is the older bark, you know, and then
is this Hypoxylon canker?
This is not a good picture, but showing similar things, similar pattern. This is not as focused, not as focused as these 2. So, what do you all think?
I think now that I'm seeing it up close, that it almost looks like a type of canker that we normally see on oaks. And I don't know. Of course, Kevin is not here. I don't know if it affects crepe myrtles or not, but that's kind of what it's looking like to me.
Brent and Laura, what do you all think? Hypoxylon can't. Becky,
I think that's
Hypoxylon canker.
Okay, Becky, did you send me a link? Is that sent to all or?
It doesn't. I don't think I have the power to send to all, but I sent
oh,
it to
you don't have the power. Okay.
You have the power.
Let me show you my power.
What were you going to say, Brent? What other crepe myrtles, and I really haven't seen anything quite like that.
yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
You guys see this?
Yeah.
The website.
I think I've seen that, but maybe only once or twice. It's not a real common thing, is it?
Okay. So this
Not
is
on
what
crepe. I've seen hypoxylon on other trees. You know, usually there's like, you know, the tree is already stressed. There's other things going on, and that's one of the things that shows you that it's definitely declining.
Okay, this hypoxylon canker, this specific one, this one is on oak, and then, you know, tree stressed by, I mean, you could read all these things, but really what it looks to me, I'm going to go back to this, where's my, to this, okay. I mean, you guys see the, this plant again, right? This, crepe myrtle. Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're still here.
Yes, we see
Okay.
it.
I asked the homeowner. Let me ask you guys this: could it be possible be lightning?
I don't think you would see it speckled throughout the tree like that. I think you would see like what is there normally an entry and an exit of the lightning
Kind of
on whatever.
more like a strip.
Like a
Yeah.
split. Yeah.
A strip or a split or yeah.
So I thought that this may look like something that, you know, something just like striking down and then took some of the older bark off and left it. So I asked him, that could be one part. Well, that could be. And I asked him to use a knife to scrape off, see whether this looks like a charcoal or something. So let's say if this is Hypoxylon canker, well, I guess that website would tell us, you know, all the information about that. So I guess more questions that we need to ask this person.
I would really.
I
would love to get Kevin involved in this.
I got a text from Keith Hansen, former county agent in Smith County, and he says he thinks it's Hypoxylon canker.
He thinks that's
that Keith has seen a lot of Hypoxylon canker.
I bet he has.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
But the question is, does the top of the tree look stressed? Like, I mean, it's hard to see the foliage and the, you know, you would expect the whole thing to look. kind
I
of.
definitely am seeing what looks like possibly some crepe murder.
Crepe murder definitely happens.
Right here, yes,
Yeah.
right here, yes, totally. This, I agree with you on that. Okay, all right. Well, again, more questions than answers that we could have. Now let's go to the Q&A session from the audience. A lot of questions for Brent, of course, and of course Keith did leave comment here saying that the black spot looked like a Hypoxylon canker. And he put the Hypoxylon canker exclamation mark. And Robbie was asking, yeah, physical damage, squirrels. And he said lightning usually takes one pass. And Beth also chimed in. She's saying that it's clearly, Beth said it's clearly Hypoxylon canker.
Yes, you mean Beth McMahon?
Yeah. Yes. And Becky said he murdered the tree. All right, questions, Brent. You featured some of the dahlias. Beth asked you, are these perennial dahlias or annuals?
Well, that's what we look for. I mean, I have planted some of those in the demonstration garden to see if they do come back. Mm-hmm. It's really tough to get dahlias. Of course, they're supposed to be perennials, but it's really difficult to get them to perennialize in Texas because of the heat. And I have had some pretty good luck over the years with the XXL series, with getting some of them to come back. But still, it's a little bit dicey. You have to get them in a place where they're very happy, with some afternoon shade and a pretty rich bed and, that sort of thing. Another thing that some of them seem to be very susceptible to is Phytophthora. So if you happen to run into that kind of an issue with some of your soils, but even in production, that's looking like it could be a problem with some particular types. So anyway, that's something that producers, of course, are going to have to deal with. But I think, you can see that some of these plants, if they've got the vigor and that sort of thing, we're beginning to see better dahlias for the heat. And so they're on the right track, but we're still going down the road.
So do you have any trials of ornamental millet?
Not this year.
Not this year. So you had those, and actually you have a lot of your data, previous year data on your website, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm just putting on the slide so that they could kind of review the these plants. Echinaceas. Do you deadhead those echinaceas in your trial?
It's sometimes we're able to do stuff like that. Sometimes it's a matter of just labor availability during the summer. I think on the ones that I showed you a picture of, it'll be interesting to see when they actually get to the point where they would need deadheading. And then at that point, I usually, if I'm going to do that, I don't go through and take them off individually. I'll go through when they're pretty much finished and then take a pair of head shears and just chop them off and see if we get any return flowering. And in some cases that may be a good way to do it, because then you don't get a lot of seed set as well, which allows them to put the energy into regrowing at the base of the plant for next year. So anyway, we'll see how I've gotten a little bit of rebloom off of those sombreros in the past before, on the ones that I've had. So this is the best established group of those that I've had yet. So I'll be interested to see what happens.
You mentioned sombreros, the series. Are they seed or cuttings?
No, those are grown from, I can't remember if they're from tissue culture or if they're just vegetatively propagated, okay. But you get them as liners. It's Darwin perennials, yeah.
And Beth also want to ask, the picture 44, is there a pink flowering? Is that a pink flowering strawberry in one of the containers? Can you go to picture 44?
Oh,
is that?
She is very observant. Yes, we have, there are some strawberries, we got those from Proven Winners, and we have 3 colors. They had come out with those a year or 2 ago, and they've got a new color this year. So we've got those in containers right now, and they're still kind of developing. we haven't had a lot of fruit set on them yet. So, but the plants are still growing and flowering and everything. So
some folks already put their votes in the question panel. I would just encourage you, when this webinar ends, when you leave the webinar, in the survey, put those 3 numbers in the survey. It's much easier for us to gather all the information there. So when you leave the webinar, do it there. Again, Keith had a lot of input saying that's Hypoxylon canker. Yeah.
Like, duh.
Are any of the perennials suitable for shade?
let's see. I was trying to think of the ones that I was showing. I think the nemoroses will probably tolerate a lot of shade. You probably need some morning sun. The echinaceas will actually tolerate some shade, but I planted a set kind of like what I showed you in another area that didn't get nearly as much sun, and they did not do as well. They don't flower as heavily, and we lost more plants that way. So anyway, of the ones I'm trialing, I don't have a whole lot of shade perennials. We've trialed some hellebores that did really well, and of course they'll take the shade. So anyway, most of the stuff I've got though right now is sun type stuff.
Okay, all right. I think that's the end of our the list of questions. Well, thank you so much, Brent. Thank you. In the next 3 weeks, we have a special edition of the chat with the Green Aggies. We have 3 weeks of crepe myrtle bark scale related webinars. It's going to be on Wednesday. It's going to be on Wednesdays starting at 11 o'clock. Brent, you have some information about your virtual field day and stuff like that. Would you send me the information so that I could forward to the attendees and the registrants today's webinar?
I'd be glad to.
Okay.
Be glad to. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. You are the Texas superstar today, and we're so glad to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I appreciate the opportunity.
This is great. Yeah.
Hey, Mung, I have a quick plug.
Go ahead.
I make a quick?
Yes.
If you are interested in a program about weeds, mostly catered to master gardeners and homeowners, although maybe professionals will get something from it as well. I am doing a virtual class tonight. There's information about it on the Healthy Lawns and Healthy Waters Facebook, as well as it will be premiered on the Water University Facebook page. So it's like an hour and a half of nothing but weed. So if you're looking for that, it's tonight, 5 o'clock. Visit either the Water University Facebook page or the Healthy Lawns and Healthy Waters Facebook page.
Would you tell them about the scam that you guys have had on Water University?
Very well, it's not just us. They're using it to target the gardens as well and some of the other AgriLife pages. But yeah, we have been experiencing attacks by somebody that is trying to create false events that mimic AgriLife events, and I've seen them also for like some of the ranch programs. So it's happening with several different AgriLife pages. But yeah, Water University has definitely been one of those Facebook pages that's been targeted, and they've taken our logo, images, things like that to really try to make it look like they're us. And we have reported it to Facebook extensively, and they have not taken it down. And they are trying to use this to charge people for classes and get their credit card information. So just know that if you do look into any of these virtual classes, they are completely free. We will not ask you for credit card information. Do not provide it. And look for just our AgriLife pages. And we also archive all of our classes on the Water University website too. So if you don't want to mess with Facebook, you can go there and watch recorded videos. So.
I was gonna ask them just hand me the cash, and then you said no.
So you were behind it, Mung. Now we know.
Yeah. It's Mung.
Okay, all right. This is the end of our webinar. Please, when you leave, put those 3 numbers in the survey so that we could get the information. Very valuable information to Brent, and I appreciate it, and I think he would appreciate it too. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Have a great afternoon.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.